Terraria is a game that has released on a ton of portable devices over the years since it originally came out in 2001, with the main one obviously being the mobile version, and there's also the Switch, 3DS, and PS Vita versions. But there was never an official release for the PSP version. Luckily though, thanks to the amazing homebrew community, there have been 3 different fan-made ports of Terraria for the PSP, which is exactly what I'll be looking at in today's video. Before we jump in though, I do need to go over some important information real quick. Firstly, you can find these games on the Web Archive's PSP Homebrew Library by just searching Terraria, and that's also the only place I've been able to find them. That also means that while I'd go over a more in-depth history of these games, I sadly only have the games themselves and nothing else. So if you happen to know anything about them, it would be amazing if you could make a comment covering what you do know. And lastly, I'm playing all of these on a PSP emulator inside of my Vita, which isn't anything too special, but I still wanted to mention it so that way, even if you don't have a PSP, you still know that you can play these games through a Vita or PSP emulator on another device. Oh, and also don't pirate Terraria. It's like $5, and none of the pirated versions will compare to the genuine version. The first PSP Terraria is Direct's Terraria Portable Test Release 0.2, which is the most bare-bones game in this video, but it still has some interesting and odd things to talk about. The menu has the familiar bouncing Terraria logo, which also changes colors, but the neat thing here is all of the options on this screen work, which won't be the case for some of the other ones we'll look at in this video. Heading to make a world, you'll be greeted with almost the exact same world sizes we have in normal Terraria, with the only difference being large is renamed to big. And when you actually go to make the worlds, you're able to put a custom name on it, which again, isn't something in the other ones in this video. But once you get into the world, you will start to see why I say it's pretty bare bones. As soon as you spawn in, the first thing you'll notice is that you don't have a background at all, and your player character looks like someone's shining a light on it. But on the flip side, you do have a nice selection of items that you can use to build with, although the lens item is actually a glass wall for whatever reason. Once you start exploring though, even if you are on a large world, you'll quickly realize that it's still really small, and the trees are also pretty glitched, with them missing their tops, alongside some other small graphic glitches. Going underground though, you will find a ton of small empty pockets, which are meant to be caves. It's just hard to tell since the world itself is small. Outside of the world itself though, building works okay in this. You have to use a slow cursor to place or destroy anything, but I did manage to make this little shack on it, so it's definitely not impossible. And while you can't actually edit your character's look in this version, you can choose to play as either a normal-ish looking Terraria guy, or play as sprites from other games, which is a pretty neat touch for a game like this. And to close off on this game, after digging around in the game's files, I ended up finding a sprite for the merchant and a slime enemy, meaning the creator of this game was at least trying to get the NPCs and enemies to work. Now, the next game isn't able to have a full playthrough done on it, but it's still neat to see, which is another one named Terraria Portable. The game will load up the starting menu, but the settings button won't work at all. And even though there is a load game option, I was never able to get my worlds to save. The new game button does work, however, and we are actually able to choose between 3 world sizes, which are small, expanded, which seems like a weird addition, and medium. So I decided to go with the small world first. Once I got done making the world, I spawned into a surprisingly nice version of Terraria that had its background art and music, so it was off to a great start. The next thing I noticed though was pretty odd, which was the fact that you only have 3 items in your hotbar, which seem to be dirt, stone, and glass. Trying to build things really confused me though, as it seems like you can only replace blocks, and also build out in a straight line. But luckily, destroying blocks was super easy, as you don't even need a special tool, since you can just break anything by hitting your left trigger. Knowing I could break things, the first thing I wanted to check out was its underground area, since it looked like there might actually be something down there. But as I started digging straight down, I quickly realized there wasn't anything underground, as it was 100% filled in with blocks, so then I decided to see how far down it goes. After digging in the dirt for ages though, I eventually ran into a stone layer, which was also the last layer before you hit a void that would respawn you on the surface. And while that doesn't matter too much since we can't pick up items and there's not any caves in this version, it was still neat to see that the creator of this port was at least trying to get the different layers added to it. After that, I decided to try and actually explore the world, which ended up just being a huge forest biome, regardless of the world's size. Besides that though, this game did have one original feature not in normal Terraria, which was the ability to change between two camera positions with one click, which was definitely a nice touch. And to close off on this game, it again seems like the creator of this game was working on adding more stuff to it, as if you take a look into the game's files, you'll be able to find a folder named NPC, which will have 4 different enemies, and even the Eye of Cthulhu boss. Now, to end this game off, I have to mention the issues with it, just in case any of you guys want to try it for yourself. While the game rarely crashes while you're in a world and playing, getting into the game itself and leaving the game is where the issues come in, as sometimes it would crash my entire system and force me to restart it, which even then, my Vita would have issues just turning off without safe mode. Regardless though, it's still really neat to see someone make this port, and they probably went on to make the other game in this video, which has a lot more compared to this version. And finally, for the third PSP version of Terraria, we have Terraria PSP, or at least that's what its file name is called. This is probably the most complete version of Terraria on the PSP at the moment, which kinda sucks for me since I wasn't able to get it to run on my system. So I had to use an emulator on my PC to get this footage. To start out, the menu for this game looks like the second game we covered earlier in this video, but it's still missing all of the buttons other than exit and single player, which were the only working buttons on the older version of this game, so I guess it makes sense that they're gone here. Once you get past the odd loading sequence you get after clicking single player and actually get into the world, you'll be greeted with an odd-looking player sprite who's totally white, alongside a world that actually looks like Terraria. The world itself is an extremely small forest biome, and underground isn't any better since it's also small, but with the addition of a void you can fall into and get stuck after you break the last layer of blocks. But the game makes up for that by having some nice features we have yet to see in the other games, like actually being able to collect items, which we can keep track of in the hotbar. Grass, which will actually regrow at a pretty fast rate. You can chop down and replant trees, and you can even build semi-decent looking houses with a working door. But you have to go into a different mode to be able to place or break blocks, making it a bit of a hassle. Terraria PSP is definitely the most complete version of Terraria for the PSP compared to the other 2 games. So if you're gonna try to play any of them, I'd definitely check out this version first. That wraps up this video, and while these were just the homebrew Terraria ports I could find, be sure to let me know in the comments if you know of any others that I missed. Thanks for sticking to the end. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Terraria content like this in the future. And as always, make sure to have a wonderful day.